I don't know what to do with myself.
He told me Mrs. Charmond is dead.
How?
She was shot. Shot by a disappointed lover who then shot himself. What care I for that? For her? Only for Giles. He died for me.
New Hardy Players was founded several years ago by Olive Blackburn and Davina Symes, and it was at the request of Norrie Woodhull, who she was actually directed in plays by Thomas Hardy, and she was the last living person who knew Thomas Hardy. It's quite a cool connection. They do lots of different adaptations of Hardy's plays and books, normally adapted by Davina Symes, but I've actually adapted The Woodlanders, which is our latest production, which was quite a task.
So yeah, as slow as you want to play it is absolutely fine. We can build on the emotion later as well. Don't worry about the accent at all, forget that for now. But I'd like to go through that again, is that okay?
I've never adapted a book before, so this is my first foray into it, and I've had lots of really sound advice, and a very good friend of mine, Elizabeth Gale, what she doesn't know, because there's lots of things about cutting different bits of wood to make thatches and gads and so on. What she doesn't know about it isn't worth knowing. So Elizabeth's been going through telling me about what a gad is and how you cut it and what a spar's for and so on and so forth, which is I think my favourite thing about the whole book is the fact that Thomas Hardy got one bit wrong, where he said that the spars were good enough for furniture. Well, you don't use spars for furniture, it's for thatching, so you would use a gad for furniture.
And whenever I split a gad, and whenever I turn the cider ring, I'll say, none could do it like you.
If Hardy was around now and he wanted to write a book, you do sort of think, oh, terrible things happened back then, but it was the olden days. That, we're much more civilised now. We don't have that sort of thing. Unbelievable. A friend of mine, he's ever such a nice chap, he and his wife have got 2 boys together, and their youngest daughter doesn't belong to him. And he knows that. He knows that his wife went away and whatever, and he's bringing up this child as his own. That's really Thomas Hardy-esque. I think he would have had a lot to write about.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So we skip to page 63. The doctor leaves and Marty comes in to talk to Grace.
That's the end of What Is Called Love. Oh, Miss Melbury, I've been following the pigeons and didn't see you. And here's Mr. Winterbourne.
Marty, I want you to walk home with me, will you?
I didn't know Mr. Winterbourne was there.
And neither was he.
But Miss Melbury, I saw him.
No, it was someone else. Giles Winterbourne is nothing to me.
Lovely. So when you're saying that's the end of What Is Called Love, you're watching the birds and that's what you're directing it to. You're not actually aware of... You kind of glimpse him, right, but you just assume that it is Giles. And actually, it's not. Terrible.
I think people forget that Dorset still has a huge amount of people who have a lot of history in themselves. I mentioned Elizabeth Gale, who's a very good friend of mine, and she has amazing knowledge of Hardy, of his works, of living as a Dorset village maid and then as a wife. And, she knows what it was like in the villages. My nanny and granddad lived in Chiddock, and we used to go there very often, and there was always someone there. There was always the chap up the road who had lollies, brilliant lollies as well. I've never seen them since. I don't even know what they were made of, but they were brilliant. You had to sidle past his house a couple of times, but when the weather was good, he used to come out and give you a lolly, and then he'd tell you a story. And there's always someone who's got something interesting to say.
How can you expect war from such a helpless, wretched being as I? Pray don't distress yourself. You may keep him for me.
Thomas Hardy had a very bleak view of the world sometimes, because he always felt a little bit let down by things. And it's quite sad. He had a great way of looking at people and noticing things. And that's in The Life of Three Strands. The last poem that the elderly Thomas Hardy reads is the one about how he doesn't want to be remembered for writing and so on and so forth. He wants to be remembered as someone who knew what kind of song a missel thrush would sing at a certain time of year and knew what kind of trees grew best where. And the last line is, he noticed such things. And I think that really gets me, because I think, oh, bless you. You did try, he did really try, but it's never easy, is it? It really isn't. And he was such a prolific writer. He must have always been thinking. You need to sit down sometimes and not do anything. I don't think he was good at that.